Have you ever walked out to your garden with a watering can in your hand, looked at your beds, and felt like something was just not right? You water, you add compost, you mulch, you try to do everything the experts tell you to do. But the soil still turns hard. Water sits on top instead of soaking in. Seedlings come up weak. Leaves turn yellow for no clear reason. The mulch just sits there for months like it has been glued to the ground. And maybe the worst part is this. You start wondering if you are the problem. You are not. If your garden used to grow better, or if you bought a home with soil that feels more like driveway gravel than living earth, you are dealing with something millions of gardeners across the United States are dealing with right now. Dead soil. Not dead like a desert with nothing in it. Dead like a kitchen full of ingredients with no cook. Dead like a house with the lights on, but nobody home. The soil may look like soil, but the living system inside it is missing. And today, I want to show you how to bring it back. No expensive bags of fertilizer, no complicated lab equipment, no harsh chemicals. Just 3 simple, old-fashioned liquids that can help wake your soil up again. They are cheap, they are practical, and if you use them the right way, they can change the way your garden behaves in a matter of weeks. So let's start with the real problem. Healthy soil is not just dirt. Healthy soil is alive. A single handful of good garden soil can hold billions of bacteria, fungi, tiny insects, earthworms, and microscopic creatures you will never see with your eyes. They are the workers underneath your garden. They break down leaves and grass clippings. They turn old roots into plant food. They build little tunnels so air and water can move. They help roots reach nutrients. They hold moisture like a sponge during a dry spell, but they also let extra water drain away after a heavy rain. When that underground community is strong, your plants do not have to struggle for every inch of growth. But when that life disappears, the whole garden starts to fail. The surface may still look normal. You may still see brown soil. You may still be adding compost and fertilizer. But the system that makes all of that useful is gone, and plants feel that right away. There are a few signs that your soil is in trouble. The first sign is water. You water a bed, and instead of soaking in, the water just sits there. It puddles on top like rain on a sidewalk. 5 minutes go by. 10 minutes go by. The water is still sitting there. That usually means the soil has lost its structure. The pores are closed. The surface has sealed over. Water cannot get in, and if water cannot get in, oxygen cannot get in either. The second sign is hardness. You push a shovel into the bed, and it barely moves. You step on the edge, and instead of sliding down, it bounces back. Sometimes you even hear that dull metal sound, like the shovel hit a piece of concrete. That is compacted soil. It happens a lot in heavy clay areas, especially in the Midwest, the Southeast, and parts of the Northeast. It also happens in new subdivisions where topsoil was scraped away during construction and the remaining ground was driven over by heavy equipment. Roots cannot grow well in that kind of soil. Water cannot move well. Air cannot move well. Life suffocates. The third sign is mulch that does not break down. You spread straw, shredded leaves, grass clippings, or wood chips, and months later they look almost the same. They are dry, pale, untouched. That tells you the decomposers are missing. There are not enough microbes and soil creatures to turn that organic matter into humus. The fourth sign is no worms. Now, earthworms are not the only sign of healthy soil, and in some wild forest ecosystems they can even be a problem. But in a vegetable garden, raised bed, or backyard growing space, seeing no worms at all is usually a warning. If you dig up a good scoop of garden soil and cannot find a single worm, That soil may not have enough food, moisture, or microbial life to support them. And the fifth sign is weak plants. They sprout, but they do not grow. They sit in the ground for weeks, doing almost nothing. The leaves pale out. The stems stay thin. They wilt the moment the weather turns hot. It can happen in Arizona heat. It can happen in Georgia humidity. It can happen in Pennsylvania clay, Colorado wind, California drought, or a raised bed in Ohio that looked perfect when you filled it, but went downhill after 2 seasons. Different climates show the problem in different ways, but the root issue is often the same. The soil is not alive enough to support the plants. So why is this happening? There is no single reason. It is usually a combination of modern gardening habits and modern weather. We till the soil over and over, and every time we do that, we break fungal networks that help hold soil together. We leave soil bare in the sun, and in many parts of the country, summer heat now bakes the top few inches until microbial life slows down or dies back. We rely on fast-acting fertilizers, and over time, salts can build up and make it harder for roots to take in water. We water with city water that may contain chlorine or chloramine. Chlorine can usually dissipate if water sits out, but chloramine does not leave that easily. Many American cities use chloramine now, so if your soil biology is already weak, filtered water or rainwater can sometimes make a real difference. And, most of all, we remove too much organic matter. We rake every leaf. We bag every grass clipping. We pull every dead plant and throw it away. We keep the garden tidy on top, but underground, the microbes go hungry. Imagine a restaurant kitchen packed with food. Vegetables, flour, spices, butter, everything you need. But there are no cooks, no one chops, no one mixes, no one turns those ingredients into a meal. That is what happens in dead soil. You may have nutrients in the ground, you may be adding fertilizer, you may be spreading compost, but if the soil life is missing, those nutrients do not get processed properly. They sit there, locked up, unused, and sometimes they even make the soil worse. That is why more fertilizer does not always help. You are not feeding a living system. You are pouring food into a kitchen with no cooks. I learned this the hard way. Years ago, I had a garden bed that had turned almost solid. I could jump on a shovel with my whole weight and it would go down maybe 2 inches. Water would sit on the surface for hours. Seedlings looked fine in trays, but once I planted them out, they stopped growing. I tried everything most gardeners try: more compost, more fertilizer, peat moss, sand, bagged soil amendments. Nothing really fixed it. Then I learned about a very old idea. Do not start by feeding the plant. Start by waking up the soil. That changed everything. Within a couple of weeks, water began soaking in faster. The surface softened. Worms started showing up again. Mulch began to darken and break down. Plants that had been stuck finally started growing. The first thing I used was something most people pour right down the sink: rice water. Yes, the cloudy white water left after rinsing rice. Most of us think of it as waste, but in traditional farming systems around the world, that cloudy water has been used as a simple microbial starter. It does not work like fertilizer. It works more like breakfast for beneficial bacteria. When you rinse uncooked rice, a thin layer of starch washes off the grains. That starch is why the water turns cloudy. Starch is food. Simple, easy food for microbes. When rice water is handled correctly, it encourages beneficial bacteria, especially lactic acid bacteria. These are related to the same kinds of bacteria involved in yogurt, sauerkraut, sourdough, and fermented vegetables. In soil, these bacteria can help kickstart decomposition. They help break down organic material. They support a healthier microbial balance. They can help soften the transition from dead, compacted soil toward soil that is active again. Here is how to make it. Take 1 cup of uncooked rice. Any plain rice will work. Long grain, short grain, jasmine, basmati, whatever you have in the pantry. Put it in a bowl or a clean jar and add about 2 cups of clean water. Now stir it hard with your hand or a spoon. Rub the grains together. You are not trying to be gentle. You want the water to turn cloudy, almost milky. That cloudiness is the starch. Strain out the rice. You can still cook the rice like normal. Pour the cloudy water into a clean glass jar. Now, this part matters. Do not seal the jar tight. Cover it with a paper towel, a coffee filter, or a clean piece of cloth, and hold it in place with a rubber band. The liquid needs to breathe. If you seal it tight, you may encourage the wrong kind of microbes, the kind that create rotten smells and unhealthy fermentation. With air exchange, you give the better microbes a much better chance. Set the jar in a dark, room temperature spot. A kitchen cabinet works. A pantry shelf works. Keep it out of direct sun and away from heat. Let it sit for 2 or 3 days. During that time, the microbes will begin feeding on the starch. The liquid may separate a little. That is normal. The smell is the important part. Good fermented rice water smells lightly sour. Think yogurt, sourdough starter, or mild pickled vegetables. It should smell alive, tangy, and clean. If it smells rotten, like sulfur, sewage, or spoiled meat, throw it out and start over. Something went wrong, and that is okay. Fermentation is simple, but it still needs clean tools and the right conditions. Some people ask about arsenic in rice, and that is a fair question. Rice can contain tiny amounts of arsenic depending on where it was grown. But when you are using a small amount of diluted rice rinse water in garden soil, the risk is generally low. Still, I do not recommend dumping strong rice water on the same bed every day. Use it as a starter, not as a constant drench. And if you garden in an area with known soil contamination, old treated wood, industrial runoff, or lead paint around an older home, do not guess. Get a soil test through your county extension office or a local lab. Biology helps, but it is not a replacement for knowing what is in your soil. To use fermented rice water, dilute it. Use 1 part rice water to 10 parts clean water. That means if you use 1 cup of rice water, add 10 cups of water. Pour it around the base of your plants or over tired garden beds. Focus on the soil, not the leaves. This is food for the underground world. Use it on a bed that has organic matter already in place. A little shredded leaf mulch, straw, compost, or grass clippings gives those microbes something to work on. In hot, dry regions like the Southwest, pre-water the bed lightly first. Bone-dry soil can repel water, so a little moisture helps the rice water soak in instead of running off. In humid regions like the Gulf Coast or the Southeast, apply it in the morning so the surface does not stay wet overnight. Within several days to a couple of weeks, you may notice small changes. Water may begin soaking in a little faster. The top layer may feel less crusted. Mulch may start to darken. Plants may look a little less stressed. This is not magic. It is the beginning of biology returning. Rice water is the spark. But once your soil begins waking up, your plants need support too. That brings us to the second liquid, fermented plant juice. Some gardeners know it as FPJ. It is used in natural farming because it captures the strength of fast-growing plants and turns it into a gentle growth tonic. The idea is simple. Plants that grow aggressively are full of active compounds. They contain enzymes, sugars, minerals, and natural growth signals. When you ferment those plants with sugar, You draw out their juices and preserve some of that living energy in liquid form. This is not the same as chemical fertilizer. A bag of fertilizer gives you numbers: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Those nutrients matter, but plants need more than numbers. They respond to biological signals. They respond to hormones, organic acids, enzymes, and microbial activity. Fermented plant juice gives the garden a gentle push in that direction. To make it, start with the right plants. Walk around your yard, your garden, or a clean, untreated area. Look for plants that are growing fast and healthy. Dandelion, plantain, chickweed, lamb's quarters, clover, comfrey, nettle if you have it, purslane, young grass clippings from a lawn that has not been treated with herbicide, vegetable tops from healthy plants, cover crop trimmings. The rule is simple. If it is vigorous, green, and healthy, it can be useful. But avoid anything poisonous or irritating, like poison ivy or poison oak. Avoid weeds that have gone to seed. Avoid plants sprayed with herbicides or growing right beside a busy road where they collect exhaust and road grime. Gather about 1 pound of fresh green material. Bring it inside and chop it up. The smaller the pieces, the better. You want to open the plant cells so the juice can come out. Now add brown sugar. Use about the same weight of brown sugar as plant material. If you do not have a scale, mix in enough sugar so the chopped greens become glossy and wet-looking. Every leaf should be coated. Do not use artificial sweeteners. They will not work. You need real sugar. The sugar pulls liquid from the plant cells through osmosis. It is similar to what happens when you salt cucumbers for pickles. The plant releases its juice, and that juice carries many of the compounds we want. Mix the greens and sugar well with clean hands. Place the mixture into a clean glass jar. Do not pack it down too hard. Leave some airspace. Put a small, clean weight on top if you have one. A small plate, a fermentation weight, or a very clean stone can work. The goal is to press the plant material just enough to help the juice collect. And again, do not screw the lid on tight. Cover the jar with cloth, a paper towel, or a coffee filter, and secure it with a rubber band. Fermentation needs to breathe. If you seal the jar, pressure can build up. At best, you get a mess. At worst, the jar can crack or burst. And believe me, fermented plant juice on the kitchen wall is not something you want to clean up. Set the jar in a cool, dark place for 5 to 7 days. After a day or two, you should see liquid collecting at the bottom. It may be dark, thick, and syrupy. That is exactly what you want. After about a week, strain the liquid through cheesecloth, a fine strainer, or a clean piece of fabric. Squeeze the plant material to get every drop. The leftover plant matter can go into the compost. Pour the liquid into a clean bottle. The smell will be strong. Sour, sweet, earthy, fermented. It may not smell pretty, but it should not smell rotten. If it smells truly foul, throw it out and try again with cleaner materials and better airflow. Now, this is important. Never use fermented plant juice straight. It is too concentrated. Dilute it about 1 part fermented plant juice to 50 parts water. For a small batch, that can mean about 1 tablespoon in about 3 cups of water. For a larger watering can, use a small amount and keep it weak. More is not better here. A gentle solution works best. You can pour it around the base of plants, or you can spray it on leaves early in the morning or in the evening. Do not spray in the heat of the day. In hot climates, especially places like Texas, Arizona, Nevada, inland California, and parts of the plains, wet leaves under strong sun can stress plants. In humid areas, be careful with evening spraying. If leaves stay wet all night, fungal problems can get worse. Morning is usually safer. Use fermented plant juice every 2 weeks during active growth. It is especially useful when plants are trying to recover from stress. After transplanting. After a heat wave. During heavy fruiting. When tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, or leafy greens look like they need encouragement, but you do not want to hit them with harsh fertilizer. What you may see is a gradual change. Leaves lift. Color improves. New growth appears. Stems thicken. Plants that looked stuck begin moving again. Not because you forced them, because you gave them a biological signal that says, conditions are improving, keep growing. Rice water wakes the soil. Fermented plant juice encourages the plant. But the third liquid is the one that rebuilds the whole system. Compost tea. Now, compost tea is often misunderstood. Some people think it is just compost stirred into water. But real, aerated compost tea is different. It is a living brew. You take finished compost, clean water, a little food for the microbes, and constant air. Then you give the beneficial organisms a short window to multiply. The result is a liquid full of active biology. When applied to soil, those microbes can help rebuild the underground community. They help break down organic matter. They help cycle nutrients. Some form partnerships with roots. Some help protect plants from disease. Some contribute to soil structure by producing sticky compounds that help bind tiny particles into crumbly aggregates. That crumbly structure is what turns lifeless dust or sticky clay into soil that holds water but still breathes. Here is how to make it safely. Start with clean water. If you use city water and it smells like chlorine, fill a bucket and let it sit open overnight. That can help chlorine dissipate. But if your city uses chloramine, letting water sit may not be enough. In that case, use filtered water, rainwater, or a plant-safe dechlorinator from an aquarium store. Use a clean bucket. 5 gallons is common, but you do not need to make that much. If lifting a heavy bucket is hard on your back, make 1 or 2 gallons. The biology does not care how big the batch is. Now add finished compost. Use compost that is dark, crumbly, and smells like forest soil. It should not smell sour, rotten, or like ammonia. Do not use fresh manure. This matters, especially if you grow food crops, have kids in the garden, or have pets. Fresh manure can carry harmful bacteria. Compost tea spreads whatever is in the compost, good or bad. So start with mature, safe compost. Place about 1 pound of finished compost into a breathable bag. An old clean pillowcase works. A paint strainer bag works. Cheesecloth works if it is strong enough. Tie it closed and place it in the bucket like a giant tea bag. Add 1 tablespoon of unsulfured molasses. Honey can work too, but unsulfured molasses is common and easy to find in the United States. That sugar gives the microbes quick energy. Now comes the most important part. Air. You need steady bubbles for about 24 hours. Use a small aquarium pump, tubing, and an air stone. You can find these at pet stores, garden centers, or online. Put the air stone in the bucket and turn it on. You want a constant stream of bubbles. Why is air so important? Because the microbes we want are aerobic. They need oxygen. Without air, the brew can shift toward anaerobic organisms, the kind associated with rot, bad smells, and plant problems. With steady oxygen, you give the beneficial biology the advantage. Let the tea bubble for 24 hours. Do not brew it for days and days. Longer is not always better. After about a day, the microbes have multiplied and the tea is usually at its best. You may see light foam on top. That is often a good sign. It means microbial activity is happening. After 24 hours, turn off the pump, remove the compost bag, and squeeze it gently over the bucket. Use the tea right away. Do not store it for next week. Without constant oxygen, the biology begins to change and decline. Use it within a few hours for best results. Pour compost tea around the base of your plants, along rows, or over tired beds. You can also use it as a leaf spray, but be smart about timing. Spray early in the morning, and avoid spraying edible leaves close to harvest unless you are very confident in your compost quality. When in doubt, keep compost tea on the soil. In dry climates, apply it after a light watering so it can move into the soil. In wet climates, do not apply before a heavy storm, or much of it may wash away. What happens after compost tea? Not everything changes overnight, but over days and weeks, the soil begins to rebuild. Microbes move into the root zone. Organic matter breaks down more efficiently. Clay begins to loosen. Sandy soil begins to hold moisture better when combined with mulch and compost. The soil surface becomes less crusted. Roots grow deeper. Plants handle heat better because the soil holds water more evenly. And the best part is that the benefits build over time. You are not just feeding this year's plants, you are rebuilding next year's garden. So now you have 3 simple tools. Rice water to wake up microbial activity. Fermented plant juice to support active plant growth. Compost tea to restore a broader soil ecosystem. You do not need to use all 3 on the same day. In fact, I would not. Start slowly. If your soil is hard, crusted, and lifeless, begin with rice water and mulch. Give the microbes food and shelter. A week or 2 later, use compost tea to bring in more biology. Use fermented plant juice during active growth when plants need support. Think of it like caring for a tired person. First, you wake them gently. Then you give them food. Then you help them rebuild strength. The garden works the same way. And please remember this. Do not expect living soil if you keep treating it like a dead surface. Keep it covered. Use mulch. Leave roots in the ground when you can. Add compost in thin layers. Avoid walking on your beds. Reduce tilling. Water deeply instead of constantly sprinkling the surface. Grow cover crops when a bed is resting. The liquids help, but they work best when the soil has a reason to stay alive. Because dead soil is not usually dead forever. Most of the time, it is just exhausted. It has been baked, compacted, starved, flooded, salted, and stripped bare for too long. But give it moisture, air, organic matter, and biology, and it can come back. I have seen soil that felt like brick turn soft enough to dig with a hand trowel. I have seen beds that would not drain start absorbing rain again. I have seen worms return to places where I had not seen a single one in years. And I have seen gardeners fall in love with gardening again, not because they worked harder, but because the soil finally started working with them. So before you buy another expensive fertilizer, before you blame yourself, before you give up on that stubborn bed, try waking the soil. Start small. 1 jar of rice water, 1 batch of fermented plant juice, 1 bucket of compost tea. Your garden does not need more force, it needs life. And once that life comes back, everything above the ground begins to change.